Okay, I wanted to clarify something that I talked about last video, and that is about how I said the way to try to get with a woman works. I was speaking sort of broadly in a way that was like more about how it would work for me. On the other hand, I could know nothing about this topic because I never experimented too much, except for these times where it's just little one rejection here and there. But it all depends on what context I'm talking about. So, for example, there's one thing that I'm thinking about, which is basically that is completely different context. So, for example, I don't know if you've heard of this guy named Scott Adams. He's the creator of Dilbert. He talked about in one of, I think it was a UC Berkeley talk actually. He went to Haas Business School and he gave a talk. What he basically said was that he was trying to exemplify the fact that his goal was to find a girlfriend by the end of the summer or something like that. And so what he did was he did exactly what I've been doing this whole time, which is basically you find one woman that you really like, and then you just try to invest in that one woman and see, and finally you try to basically invest in it, and then you wait for a point in which you say, "Can you go out with me?" And then she might say yes or she might say no. And then he gave an example, and then he said, "Okay, well, that's one way of doing it, and then there's another way, which is a systematic way of doing it, which is that you can go that if you're exerting the same amount of effort because you're striving towards the same goal, which is to get a girlfriend, but instead you're going after as many possible people as women as you can. So you're going up to one woman and you're just asking directly, you want to go out with me, yes or no? No. Moving on to the next one, you want to go out with me, yes or no? And then he was trying to say that basically it was obvious that the law of large numbers obviously means that you're probably going to, just based on that aspect alone, that it's just a little bit more likely that because you're trying to go after more people, that you're more likely to, just a little bit higher chance that you're going to find someone. But he said that more importantly, that it was because he had a system about it. It was rather than what he did, which is what I do, which is you invest in that one opportunity and think that and try to increase the chances of likelihood of success for that thing. So that's what I've been doing, and that's what he did up to a certain point. And actually, I don't know if he didn't say if he changed his mindset, but he was using that as an example of why it's better to be more systematic. So, for example, if you were systematic about losing weight, you wouldn't just focus on losing weight. You would be systematic about it. You would allot these different times of trial and errors. So, for example, tomorrow I may not be able to commit to not drinking coffee, but if all goes well, I'll probably won't. But I'll just have, maybe one sip, or I'll order a small instead of a medium, things like that, where you're just gradually you're allowing for error, or you're allowing for uncertainties. In other words, you're being systematic about it because you're not focusing on the one thing and then hoping that it'll happen, and then chances are it'll fail, right? So this example I'm thinking about is I'm just trying to let you know that I'm aware that this method that I talked about in my last video is not necessarily a good one if your goal is to just get a girlfriend, but at the time, I wasn't necessarily willing to go up to just any random girl. See, that wasn't necessarily the only goal. The other goal was don't get with a bitch. And, there's too many women out there that are bitches. Like, you just have to, that's just the way, a lot of women will say, get that opinion out of your head, or else we'll hit you hard, we'll kill you. I don't know. No, but they'll be very angry at that statement. But for the purposes of trying to get with someone, yeah, like it's just okay. Maybe I might be false about that, saying that most women are bitches. But from my experience, man, it's like if you're not careful, you're gonna run into some random person who's just not going to be very. Well, there's too many people that are not willing to commit to anything. So, and I'm not looking for someone who's trying to not commit, who's going to be irresponsible, who's just going to like flake out at the last minute saying, well, you were good for 2 seconds. So the systematic way may not be good in that case for certain individuals, but it certainly is, and it certainly isn't the case for me. But so my other goal was because my goal was basically to go get a girlfriend so that I would so that I can get emotional assistance. And if you're going to be with a random bitch or just a random woman, you have no certainty that she's going to be an asset for that. She might be more of a deficit for that. In other words, she might bring more pain, more anguish, more whatever to your life. And so you don't want to deal with that. And so I think, Scott Adams at the time kind of was probably thinking that in the back of his head, and he just thought, you know what? But then later on, he's just like, okay, well, if the goal was just to get a girl, right? Because at the time, I guess, he claims that at the time when he was trying to get the girl, that he was competing with someone else, with another man, saying who can get the girl first. So, so basically, that was that was the case. But, hopefully that's clarified. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and this is the last thing, hopefully I'll wrap this up soon, is the idea of the idea of like, with a woman where maybe every man is abusive or just wants to have sex or has negative intentions. It's really hard to say. I mean, I think on average, a lot. On average, if you're in an adult community and you go up to a man, they're not going to have necessarily bad intentions. They might seem a little bit angry, but what I mean is there are some of those people that where you go up to them, like these guys, and you go up to them, they are obviously angry individuals. You could tell they're abusive people, and they are threatening. I mean, you don't have to be a woman to recognize that. You see what I'm saying? So there are people out there like that, but a large majority of adult males are not really that abusive, and frankly, I don't see, I can't really say that these threats that they're making up, that a lot of these women are making up, are at all can be considered real, because I've experienced a lot of women say that I'm abusive and that I'm this certain way, that I'm too loud. That's another thing I've been getting from a lot of women, and the list just goes on. It's mostly when I'm in crowds of women, or that are together, that I get these remarks, and it's or if I stay around with a woman, just any woman, for an extended amount of time, I tend to get these labels when it's not that way. It's just they are creating these. This is the theory, is that they're creating these threats because they're evolved now to try to detect threats that aren't that aren't even there, because the whole idea of the guy's been protecting them this whole time from threats, and now there's no guy, and now they have to make a fake one, and it has to be a big deal. So I'm speaking from experience that this is the case. I was actually, when I was about 8 years old, in a consistent manner, I went to I was babysat by like a family of 5 women, and so I can give a lot of, I have a lot of feeling involved with how this is impacting now, because back then it wasn't so bad, but even then they kind of claimed they were feminists, and I don't remember exactly if that were the case, but I mean, if I were to ask them, they would the mother, she would definitely say that. She would say something about how women need to be treated better, blah 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 blah, and some BS. So the whole idea is that hopefully this doesn't go too. Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna wrap it up. That coming from experience, there so many, and it's funny because now it's like more other people are now seeing it, whereas me being an 8-year-old, I was the only one seeing these things. The one where it was just I couldn't necessarily put it into one group or another. It just kind of seemed like, oh, my dad's beating me here. This group is these certain people are treating me a certain way, and so on. So I couldn't piece it together until later, but now it's clearly evident, and it's like, well, everyone else is facing this a lot of other men are facing this problem with women, and divorce rates are huge, are high. So I think it all makes sense. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.